Hello, what's happening, everyone? William Johnson here. I had a question on the channel from one of the cajon tutorials not long ago about some suggestions I may have about playing the cajon or different ways, alternative ways of playing the cajon. The person who asked the question, it was a great question, asked about suggestions I may have for someone that's wearing a dress. She wants to play and add it to her church, which sometimes she wears a dress, and if you're sitting on the cajon, then the dress may get in the way, and then you're wearing a dress, and then you may be up on stage, and that might not be the most modest way or thing that she wants to present, especially if her legs are open and she's on the cajon wearing a dress. You get the picture, right? So I thought that was a valid question. It's a great idea. These are things that I've talked to people about and thought about over time and never made a video about it. So anyhow, I'm going to give a couple alternative ways that I have played the cajon before. And not that I've ever worn a dress, but different ways of playing the cajon other than sitting on the cajon. So playing standing up or playing the cajon as an extra part of the drum set and not sitting on it, right? So obviously if you're not sitting on the drum, then it being on the ground and not supported by any other weight may be difficult. So here's a couple of different ways. There's many different ways you can approach this, right? And there's some pros and cons of not sitting on the drum while you're playing. So the first thing is I have a setup here that I wanted to talk about, just give you an idea, some tips, some different ways and things that you can do. I have this cajon here set up on a snare stand, all right, and it is, well, it's a snare bucket, but the snare bucket part of the stand is actually in a cymbal stand. So if you have a snare stand and you take the bucket part that the snare actually fits in there, if you loosen that, take it out, and it can fit within a cymbal stand, what that does is that allows you to get it up higher, right, because a cymbal stand sits up higher, but also often the braces or the legs of a cymbal stand are longer and more sturdy than a cymbal stand. So this allows for more stability, and it allows you to get up and be able to stand. So you can see I'm able to stand, or I'm also sitting in a stool, so I'm sitting higher up. Now, you don't have to do it this way. You could stay seated and use a drum throne and just use the snare stand, right? And that way you'll be down lower. The pros of that is if you want to stay seated lower. The cons obviously is that the snare stand's legs are not as long and it's not as sturdy. So you can just buy a cajon stand and play, and now you have the issue of sitting on it solved. You're not sitting on it, you're playing standing, you got your shakers, your congas or whatever, and you can add it to your kit. I actually like this from time to time. Sometimes I don't want to sit. Sometimes I want to play standing and I'm the only drummer, and it has a different look, a different aesthetic on stage. And then there's sometimes I want to dance around while I'm playing. And so, sometimes you want to do that. Also, sometimes my back is, I just don't feel like sitting on a cajon for a couple hours playing, with my back like that. Now, obviously to solve that is posture and to work on your core, so that it strengthens and supports your lower back. However, not everyone can do that, so this is a solution. You can buy a cajon stand, but I've seen at least one by, I think, Mino, and it lists retail. I'll post some links down below in the description. If you scroll down, see where it says description, and if you're looking on a phone and you don't see it, you might have to hit the little more button so the whole description pops up. But I'll post some links down there. I believe that goes retail for about $179. So let's say you're not trying to add a whole bunch of extra costs. You just want to find another solution, right? Well, this is a way. And you might say, well, William, now I got to buy the snare stand or the cymbal stand. Yes, however, it may be cheaper if you go on eBay and buy a used cymbal stand and snare stand. The only thing about that is finding a snare stand and a cymbal stand that work together. If the cymbal stand's small and the snare stand is really large, it may have a thicker pole and may not fit within there. However, what I have found, and I'll post this type of, if I can, this is an older cymbal stand, so I may not have the brand on there, but if I do, I'll post all that below. But this could still work. It could still work, and you can find a used cymbal stand for $30, $40 sometimes. But here's the thing, and one of the reasons why I suggest this is that if you're playing at your church and you're the drummer that week and you're playing the cajon, well, you may be able to take the cymbal and the snare stand from the drum set and just do that. So your church may have an extra snare and cymbal stand. So this may be something that you want to do. And this might be a video that someone on youth worship teams or on a worship team might watch and try to find some different way to switch things up on stage. So this is just one way, and I think you can probably do this for $50 cheaper. You could probably do this for a total of $100. I have seen sometimes good snare stands go for as low as 30 bucks or 40 bucks online. You just have to do some hunting. Same thing with the cymbal stand. Sometimes you'll see them in garage sales, in pawn shops, Facebook Marketplace. Just look around and try to see if you can see the dimensions of the actual cymbal stand. If you get a large cymbal stand, I don't think you're going to have a problem with any of your snare stands, however. And if it's too big, then you can just kind of get a sock and wrap it around the bucket part of the stand. Let me show you this one I have here. I have a snare stand here. And in this snare stand, I usually switch it up and put different buckets. I'm calling this the bucket in the different bottom because it just depends on what I'm doing, right? So here I actually have a sock to make it fit a little bit tighter. I don't think I really need it, but it just stayed on there and I just got used to the way it looks and I just kind of kept it on there, something different. But you can do that. You can place a sock within the actual bucket, right? And then when you place that inside there, that just adds some extra girth to it so that it fits within there better. All right, so that's one way. You can fit it in another snare stand like this as well and just place the cajon on there. Now, you may have been looking at this video and wondering what in the world is going on, though, with these bands and this here. Well, if you're not sitting on the cajon, here comes the pros and cons of sitting and playing and not sitting on the drum. If you're sitting on it, you're going to change the sound. If you're not sitting on it, it's going to change the sound of what it sounds like. Basically, that weight on the drum is going to cause to take away from the vibrations, extra vibrations that it may have, right, on the drum, and so it'll cause the playing face to be more focused when you play it. You're getting that sound just from the actual playing face in the drum, as opposed to when there's no weight, the whole drum may not have been tuned or created or crafted when they're crafting the drum to sound like that. Sometimes when they create the cajon, someone's sitting on it, playing it, and testing what it sounds like that. So when you're not sitting on it, it may rattle a little bit more. You may get all these other sympathetic noises that you might not like. And the bass tone, it might be more focused. And what I mean by that is it's less resonant and more punchy when you're sitting on it. When you're not sitting on it, there's more vibration. It might be more resonant, a more wet sound that we might say. So one of the ways that we can solve the problem, and it's still not going to make it completely sound the same as if you were sitting on it, but we can solve that problem is by using some elastic bands, like some moving bands. And we can tie that around the cajon, and I have it actually anchored down to the actual snare stand to give it some durability while it's on the stand. Now it's wobbling a little bit, mostly because this snare stand is broken on the bottom. Cymbal stand is broken on the bottom. It's an older one, but it doesn't bother me too much. Just it's not tightened all the way down where the legs are. But you know, you're playing it on a stand, so I mean, unless you're playing really crazy hard, there's going to be a little bit of wobbling anyways. I play really hard, and I don't foresee this being a problem. And if you're a beginner, you may or may not play as hard as I do. Even though I'm using, I like to think, proper technique, I still get very excited and play pretty hard. So I don't see it as a problem. But anyways, I have these bands, and that tightens the playing face almost like your foot up against the drum would do, right? So that helps the sound be more focused. Then you could take a towel or a scarf or something like that and place it underneath the band so it's kind of pressing up against the drum a little bit. And what this is doing is just taking away some of those sympathetic vibrations that you may or may not like. So I'm basically just experiment with it, right? And I don't have a mic that is tuned, so you're just hearing my vocal mic here for the video. But I kind of like the way that this sounds. I did this quickly for the video and testing what it would sound like, and I like it. I dig it. I would do something like this on stage. I would probably use a black towel or scarf so that it's not as obvious. But I don't know. It might look cool and different. Anyhow, there's another way that I usually do this standing up, and that's by using a Gibraltar djembe stand. Now you can use a djembe stand like I have one here, right? And this is cool, but the problem that I found with using this djembe stand and putting the cajon on there, which it works great as far as sitting on there, but the problem is getting the mic then to the porthole. If you have a cajon, like I have a couple cajons that are double-sided, and so the porthole is on the side, no problem then. But if the porthole is on the back, then it's going to be covered up partially by the brace, the bar of the djembe stand. And so it's kind of hard sometimes getting a larger microphone positioned there so that we can get that sound. You can work around it, it's just a little bit more work involved. This way, I have found that I'm able to get with a boom mic stand, I'm able to get to the porthole and mic it up a whole lot easier than with the djembe stand, right? And it's lighter. This stand you can close up and put away and carry a lot easier. So yeah, so the djembe stand is one way. Another way, and I haven't tried this, but I saw online, another thing that you can do is you can actually try a double, guitar combo amp stand, where they take the stand is used to lift up the actual bass or guitar cab, the actual cabinet, the speaker, the amp. And so you may try to use that. I'll post a link to something that looks like it would work, but I haven't never tried that. So I'm not saying go ahead and do that and it's going to work great. It just might be a suggestion. You may, if you have a guitar or guitar center or a guitar shop or store, a music store in town, or know someone that has one like that, a stand like that for their guitar amp, you may ask them if they can try it. And basically, and I'll post a photo up here, you can see the legs on the bottom and then the brace on the back. You could see how a cajon might sit right there and you could play while seated or standing. Anyways, I'm going to show you the next way that I think might work other than playing this, and then you don't hardly have to purchase anything else or buy anything else. All right, here's the other idea that I have, and it's way more basic. And this one is probably much more feasible for our questioner, our watcher that asked the question, and for some of you that may also find this insightful and want to try this out, is basically sit on a drum throne. I'm sitting on a drum throne. You don't have to sit on the cajon. If you're wearing a dress, then you could wear the dress and it won't be in front of the drum, because that's a large part of the problem, right? And so you're able to just play here, and the dress can be folded back here, and now the cajon is in front of you as opposed to you sitting right on it. And so you just adjust your drum throne. I'm sitting right on the drum throne, which is behind the drum here, the cajon. So if you don't have a drum throne, you can use a chair. You know, if you at your church and there's a drum chair there, use the drum throne or what have you. But then you can adjust the height however you need to, right? And then it's just a matter of how large the cajon is. And then now you can still get to, it may be a little tricky, but you can still get to the porthole with the boom mic stand. And you're going to need, with this, you're probably going to need more than likely, I think you can do it probably with an actual boom mic stand like this, a tall one, but you're going to probably want a boom mic stand that's short, sitting on the floor. And then you can just kind of come from behind you and where the chair is and point it right towards the cajon. And then between the cushion of the drum throne and your legs, and then in front you have it supported, so you probably won't, you're less likely to hit the actual microphone and get it, because that's something that we have to deal with playing the cajon sometimes, right? It's making sure that as we tip the cajon back, as we get excited, that microphone placement is still there and we're not messing with that. So you can bring the cajon a little bit closer to you. All right, not in camera here. Something that I don't have is that I'm tilting the drum towards me, right? And the way I'm doing that is I'm using a piece of wood underneath the rubber feet of the cajon. And basically I just have this tabletop piece of wood that I got from Home Depot. You can get one from Home Depot or Lowe's or your hardware store if you're in another country or you don't have one near you. And basically this is just like a tabletop, round tabletop, but you can find any flat piece of wood that's thick enough that will work, and basically just place it underneath the cajon. If your stage is wood, you're going to want a rug so that this isn't sliding around. And now you can play it. You have to make sure that you adjust your chair so that you're not leaning too far. But now you're back in the seated position, and all you did was basically get off the drum and get on a chair so that you can play your cajon, and that problem can be solved and you can still mic it. So flat piece of wood, drum throne, that's pretty much all you need. These are a couple different ways, or a few different ways, that you can play the cajon as opposed to just sitting on it. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other ideas and suggestions that you've done that have worked for you in the past. Let's talk about it below. It may help somebody. Thank you all for watching. God bless you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you, and I'll see you soon.